Hi, this is Joan. And what you're saying in the background here, well, even before I say that, this is a TikTok video from Smash the Topic TV. Well, anyway, I saw this about a month ago and I'm just now getting around to actually saying anything about it. And what you're looking at is a young girl having a temper tantrum or just throwing things in Walmart. And all the adults around, including her parents, are just watching her do it because what are you supposed to do when a child acts up and you've tried to reason with them and they just don't want to behave? So, and what is behave? Maybe they're just expressing their frustration at having to live in a imperfect world. Well, basically, I told you, I think yesterday or the day before, I'm a baby boomer and I'm the youngest of seven siblings. So I would not say I was spoiled, but I will say that when my siblings took me to the store, I didn't act out like this, but I would cry and scream and holler and jump up and down if I wanted something and they couldn't get it for me. So, after a little bit of frustration, I guess, with my behavior, my mother decided to take me with her. Now, this is what I've been told. I honestly don't remember it, but I do know that whatever she did, I never did that again. I'm pretty sure she didn't use what is called peaceful parenting. Now, I don't have any bruises that I recognize stemming from my childhood, say, before the age 12 or anything. But there was a sense, I think, back then that children are supposed to listen to their parents. But because some parents abuse that tremendously, I will admit that. But listen to the word some parents, not all parents. Some parents abuse their physical strength against their children and abuse them tremendously. However, I honestly believe most didn't. And the thing is, when certain ideals were passed to everyone and enforced by the legal system, it forced everybody to agree with maybe behaviors, maybe ways of treating children that they didn't actually agree with. And like I said, even when I acted out, I was so young, I don't even remember it. I had to be about 4 and younger. This little girl looks to be older than that. Like she's fully aware of what she's doing, that she's destroying things. But she, at the moment, doesn't seem to care. So, I was looking at that thinking, wow, times have really, really changed. And I came across this information. This is from Copilot. Copilot, what is peaceful parenting? A peaceful parenting is an approach that emphasizes empathy, respect, and positive communication between parents and children. It focuses on building a strong, trusting relationship and guiding children with love and understanding rather than punishment or control. Here are some key principles of peaceful parenting. 1. Empathy and understanding. Recognize and validate your child's feelings. Show empathy by listening and acknowledging their emotions. 2. Positive discipline. Use positive reinforcement and natural consequences to guide behavior. Avoid punitive measures like spanking or yelling. 3. Connection before correction. Prioritize building a strong emotional connection with your child. When they feel understood and loved, they are more likely to cooperate and follow guidance. Modeling behavior. Demonstrate the behavior you want to see in your child. Children learn by observing their parents, so be a positive role model. Open communication. Encourage open and honest communication. Create a safe space for your child to express their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. 6. Problem solving together. Involve your child in problem solving and decision making. This helps them develop critical thinking skills and a sense of responsibility. Benefits. Stronger parent child bond. Peaceful parenting fosters a deep, trusting relationship between parents and children. Emotional regulation. Children learn to manage their emotions effectively through the example set by their parents. Positive behavior. Children are more likely to exhibit positive behavior when they feel understood and respected. Resilience. Children develop resilience and coping skills in a supportive and nurturing environment. Peaceful parenting is about creating a loving and respectful family dynamic where children feel valued and understood. That sounds really, really good. The problem is it doesn't work for a lot of children. Now, if you have a child who comes out the womb peaceful and, listens to you, that's great. You can do that. But unfortunately, I don't think it works for everyone. It definitely, now, if the parents are using this peaceful parenting with this child, I would say I don't really think it's working. And the thing is, most people recognize that children are born selfish. They are not, most of them, are not born thinking about other people. They're thinking mostly of what do I what do I want and how do I get it? And you big people, especially these two or this one who's around me the most, should give me everything I want. I think that it's up to the parent to explain to the child, you know, um, you cannot have everything you want, and the world does not revolve around you. And I think what you're looking at here is a child who feels that I am the center of the universe. When I am frustrated, I will do whatever I feel like doing. I think it's part of the parent's job to explain, no, you cannot have everything. You cannot just terrorize everybody. And I think that often people look at children as though they freeze in time. That is, that 5-year-old, 6 or 7, however old that girl is, who's throwing things in Walmart unashamedly and without any type of embarrassment, because that's kind of part of a child's world. They're not teaching her that what you do matters. You are part of a society and certain behaviors are not acceptable. Now, you can tell a child that, but I actually think that spanking the child is the quickest and probably the most effective way of making them understand that. Now, I said spanking. I did not say screaming, hollering, cursing, or abusing. But the thing is, the child has to learn that they have to fit in. They have to fit into an environment and that they have to learn to tolerate frustration. When I look at the violence rate, what I'm looking at, in my opinion, and it is just my opinion, is people who did not learn in childhood to tolerate frustration. They were taught that everyone around them should pamper them and coddle them. I see a lot of people online, well, mostly on YouTube and probably TikTok, but enjoy it while it's still here. They're asking, did we coddle black men as black women? And I think, yeah, you still are coddling black men. And I think it's not just black women who are coddling black men or telling black men things that don't really help the society. The thing is, your child has to grow up and be part of a society, and it's your job, in my opinion, to teach them a certain amount of humility, a certain amount of you should not do certain things because it's not good for all of us. I did also go to Copilot and ask, okay, well then why is spanking wrong? Now it said that, let me show you. Spanking is considered harmful for several reasons: emotional and psychological impact, fear and anxiety. Spanking can create fear and anxiety in children, damaging the parent child relationship. Now, I have to respectfully disagree. I think that spanking creates a sense of a boundary, an emotional or social boundary around the child. It explains that, hey, this behavior is not acceptable. You are small and growing. It is your job here to listen and learn. Your acting out it will not be acceptable. And it's I heard someone say, I'm spanking you now so that the police won't spank you later. I agree with that. Whatever your race is, you have to learn to tolerate frustration because in life you will have frustration. And I think just like children, just like babies like to be wrapped in blankets, they like that snug feeling rather. I think it's the same with people. You have to give them boundaries. You have to explain this is unacceptable. You cannot go through the store and destroy it just because you feel like it or something didn't go well for you. But let me continue. Aggression. Children who expect Children who are spanked may become more aggressive and exhibit violent behavior as they learn to solve problems through physical means. Problems are often solved through physical means. That's why you have war. That is just how life is. And also, I think both of these, fear and anxiety and aggression, that they're attributing to spanking, I don't think you're that it's addressing spanking. I think it's addressing abuse. There is a difference, in my opinion, between abuse and physical spanking. Low self-esteem. Spanking can lead to feelings of worthlessness and low self-esteem as children may internalize the ideal that they are bad or unworthy of love. Again, I really don't agree. I think that when you teach a child that I'm going to spank you or I am spanking you, but you are not abusing them to the sense that they've got scars or every time they see you, they're terrified. I think when you also explain to them why you're doing it, what they did wrong, you're teaching them that there are consequences to their behavior. And again, that they are part of a family. This is how you belong in this family. Certain behaviors are tolerated and certain are not tolerated. And that goes to the community. You teach them that the family is part of a community of people and we all have to deal with each other. We cannot just have our own way. I think it's a way of teaching them boundaries. Behavioral consequences, ineffective discipline. Spanking may stop undesirable behavior temporarily, but it doesn't teach children why their behavior is wrong or how to make better choices. Well, that is if you spank them and don't tell them why you're spanking them or explain this is what you did wrong. This is why what you did wrong. I think that a lot of times people think that people spank in isolation. That is, that they are not also telling them about peaceful parenting, telling them why what their behavior did was ineffective. It also says increased misbehavior. Studies have shown that children who are spanked are more likely to misbehave in the long run, as they may not learn self-discipline or problem solving. Well, I think it's personally, I think it might be the opposite because it seems like since we have had this peaceful parenting or don't spank your children, we have had more teachers can't teach anymore. So many are quitting because the students are beating them up. They, the one thing spanking does do is it reinforces the ideal that there are people bigger and stronger than you who have authority over you. You have to learn to fit in, not to the point where you give up all of your creativity, but to the sense that you don't get to destroy other people's property. You learn to have some respect for other people. Again, that is spanking not in isolation, that the person, the child, is being spoken to. I think if you spank and you don't talk to the child and explain why you're doing it or what they did wrong, or the whole ideal of family, Um, when you just give a child an iPad or just put them in front of the TV, well, that TV becomes more real to them than you are. That is the authority person in their life. Then when they go to school, well, some of the children, like I said, some children you don't have to spank. They listen to you. But for the ones who don't, I have a concept of the invisible bully. Have you ever noticed that a child who's being bullied in a classroom, people don't notice that bully. But when the child acts out and tries to protect themselves or anything like that, that's when everybody notices. So you're sending your children out among people who I think are bullies, people who have not learned to care about other people, have not learned or yeah, that they are part of a family and that family is in a community and that community is part of a society and you have a role in it. So I think that these studies, well, I don't know. Um, I don't know the conditions of the studies, but basically I tend to not really believe this. Studies have shown that children who are spanked are more likely to misbehave in the long run. Yeah, I don't really think so, as they may not learn self-discipline or problem-solving skills. Well, I think there's a difference between spanking a child and abusing a child. And even if you spank, if you're explaining to them, this is what you did wrong. You have a place in the family. You have responsibilities also. It is not the parent's responsibility to simply give, and never lose their tempers. What you're asking of parents, I think, is impossible. They can't do it. They have to go to work. They have to do other things. They don't stop being human beings with only 24 hours in one day in which they have to get everything done just because they become parents. So I know that this sounds very different from what you may have heard, but I do think it's important in life to look at what actually works. Why is it that, I don't know, let's say 50 years ago, teachers could actually teach in the classroom? They didn't have to worry about being physically abused by the students. There's a reason why this generation, we're seeing so much violence and such a lack of empathy. I think it's because we're not teaching children that they have responsibilities too, to have respect for the people who are caring for them and also to learn. We have to teach and they have to learn. Well, also, it's saying that spanking can bring about physical harm. Spanking, when you are not abusing the child, when you're recognizing the size of the child and your own strength, that does not cause physical harm. But Here it's saying spanking can cause physical injuries ranging from bruises to more severe harm, especially if done in anger or without control. Well, I think the answer is don't do it in anger and have control because you are the parent. Well, normalizing violence. It sends the message that physical violence is an acceptable way to deal with conflicts or frustration. Okay, again, if you don't feel that violence is the way, then why do you have armies? Why do you have, well, they're called peace officers. Why is it, I mean, you have war. That's simply the way it is. It'd be real nice if people could just talk things out, nations, but doesn't happen that way all the time. Normalizing violence. It sends the message that physical violence is an acceptable way to deal with conflicts or frustrations. Well, if you look at this young girl here, and there are lots of videos online of children hitting their parents. I saw a video where a teacher was being attacked. She called the assistant principal, I think, and the child picked up a chair, threw it at the assistant principal, and she hit her in the eye, and she lost the eye, or lost the use of the eye. So you have to train your children, I think, to fit into the family, to respect that, and for them to recognize that their job is to grow up and be responsible citizens. They have to learn to tolerate frustration. Life is a frustrating experience in a lot of different ways. But if you constantly tell your children, excuse me, if you don't prepare them for that, if they don't learn to control themselves, this is what you have. And I think this is also why you have so much violence. So, it gives you alternatives to spanking, which is positive reinforcement, rewarding good behavior, encourages children to repeat those actions. Time outs. Giving children a break to calm down and reflect on their behavior can be effective. Natural consequences. Allowing children to experience the natural consequences of their actions helps them learn responsibility. All of these sound really good, except maybe the timeouts, because I remember years ago was a show called the Dick Van Dyke Show, and it was a married couple, excuse me, and they had a child, a boy named Richie. And whenever Richie would do something bad, they would say, Richie, go to your room. And there was a comedian who came out and he was speaking as if he was Richie. And he was like, yeah, I want to go to my room. All my stuff is in my room. All my good stuff is in my room. That's my clothes, my everything I have. So shoot, I'm happy to go to my room. That's not really punishment. Now, timeouts work for some. All three of these are, great if they work for you, but it's it's acting as if you can't do that and spank. It's also acting as if the child is the center of your universe. And I don't think the child should be. I think that they should know you exist in my life. I love you. I'm doing all I can for you. But I also expect things from you. You are part of the family. You are going to behave like you're part of a family, like they used to say back in the day, like somebody raised you. You were not just, we didn't just open the door, throw you out, and let you just do whatever. No, you're part of a family. You're going to grow up. You're going to represent us. You're going to represent us before. So I'm going to show you how to behave, and I'm going to show you that there are people who have authority over you. You need to respect them. And this is just my opinion, and it's just something to think about. But consider all the violence you have now. And I look a lot at the femicide rate, especially the black femicide rate. And I think a lot of that is because, yes, I do think we have coddled our black men to a certain extent, but I think society has. Now, I know that that will get some pushback, but the thing is, while society may have been hard on black men, they are also constantly telling black men that they are beautiful, they look better than black women, they are not as good as black women, but but at the same time, black women are told, well, they have had such a hard time, you need to take care of them. And, nobody wants you anyway. You need to provide food, clothing, and shelter with them. Well, I think that the mixed messages have made some of our men. It's a scripture in the Bible that says if you do too much for a person, you'll raise up a thankless one. I think that that is part of what has been happening. But this is something to consider, and there is a big difference between spanking and abuse. And I think you should look at the behaviors of the current children and children 50 years ago. And I also think people should consider that to children need chores. They need to be home with spend more time with their parents, learning to be good citizens, learning to be good representatives of their families. They, I don't believe in homework for that reason. I believe, well, while you're in school, do your schoolwork. But the reason why the school year was, or in some places still is, where you have 2 months off for summers, was so that the children could go help their parents. That way they learned they are part of a family. I hear a lot of people growing up saying, well, I don't owe my mother, father anything. That's very hard to hear because when you couldn't do anything, they were there. And I think especially your mom. And when men say, well, dads did just as much, okay, well, you open up your body and you carry the baby then. If you want to go 50-50, you carry 4.5 months and ask her to carry 4.5 months. Every labor pain she has, you get to have it too. Then afterward, you produce milk for that baby then. But these are all things just to consider, and I didn't mean to go on for so long. But you guys have a great rest of your day. Also, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them and I will address them. If there's something you'd like me to address, I'm more than happy to do so. So, you guys have a great rest of your day.